beautiful, honestly. And I live to primary school, and up till last Friday, school was still on in the UK. So
Okay.
Every few hours I had kids screaming. It felt very lively, but now it's only the birds left, which is nice too.
All right, so I think we're already streaming on YouTube, so
okay,
I think
now.
we can start the webinar. I will share my screen.
Just a moment, just one moment, please.
Okay.
I need to add the streaming to Slido. Just a moment. So it was KTU Online or Padlet? Which link was advertised? Do you remember?
I can check.
I can push it to both of them.
It was the usual link, KTU Meet, I think, on Zoom.
It was Slido Padlet.
Padlet, okay. Okay, we are ready to go. I also recording this via Zoom as well. So please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. All right, so I hope you can see my screen. So good morning, everyone, once again. I am Vilma Sukatske. I am from Kaunas University of Technology, and I work as a lecturer there, and I'm also a PhD student of educational sciences, and I focus on how university teachers across different countries implement educational technology for teaching foreign languages. But I'm also interested in a variety of tools that can be used for other disciplines as well. And today I'm going to show you Padlet. That's one of the platforms that's really, I think, can be universally used for different disciplines, and it's really multifunctional. So I hope that you're going to like the platform and explore it for your own needs afterwards. Okay, so the first thing why this platform is really good, I think, is because it can be accessed via a variety of different devices. So you can access it on your laptop, on your tablet, on your smartphone. And there have been numerous cases where right before the seminar where I was about to use Padlet, I remembered, okay, I forgot to add this link or this file, or I thought that, okay, maybe I should add something. So I would simply go on my smartphone and then add whatever is needed. So the content that you see is exactly the same whether you connect to your Padlet through the phone or through the computer or through any other device, which is, I think, really good because there are some alternatives to Padlet that have kind of similar features, but you will not necessarily see the exactly same content, or you won't have the access to the same features if you are using, for example, your smartphone as opposed to logging in on your computer. Also, what's good is that your students, once you create a Padlet project, they don't need to have an account to access it and to modify it. So that's also simplifying their learning process, I guess. Okay, so the biggest limitation of this platform is, I would say, that it is not free of charge. Well, not fully free of charge. as a teacher, you could subscribe and pay $12 monthly, as you can see, or almost $100 yearly as a yearly subscription. But there is also a plan where you can have only 3 projects for free, but you're allowed to use all the features that are accessible also if you had the paid subscription. So if you want to use Padlet for free, you are allowed to create only 3 projects. So it's a little bit limited. I used to go about this very creatively. So I would either create several, well, not create, I already have several Gmail accounts. So I would log into different accounts and use several Padlet accounts, or I would simply design some kind of exercise or a task or a class, and then when I don't need it anymore, I would archive it, and so I have an extra project slot that I can fill in with new materials. So I would like you to test this platform in practice. So I would like you to, if it's possible, to maybe like divide your screen. So make the Zoom chat window smaller, and also go on Google Chrome. I would advise to use Google Chrome, because with other browsers, not all of the features are accessible. So make the screen smaller, and then go to Google Chrome as well, so you can see my slides and Padlet side by side, and go to padlet.com, and you will see the option to log in. And the easiest way to log in is by clicking on Login with Google. So I will give you some time to do that. Okay, and once you log in, you will see that the platform is asking you whether you want to have the basic package or the pro package. And as you can see on my slide here, the basic package is supposedly free forever, and you can create 3 Padlets. There is a limitation on how large your files can be, so they're limited to 10 megabytes only, and you can have the standard support. So if you don't want to pay money right away, just click on the basic package. Okay, I can see a question, whether it's possible to sign up without a Google or Microsoft account. Well, I haven't tried, honestly, I haven't tried to connect with some other account, but I don't think it's possible. You should have your Gmail account.
It works.
Does it work, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
With the different
Just your email address works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I confirm that.
Okay, that's good then. Yeah, so after all, it's possible to log in with a different email as well. Okay, I usually use my Gmail, so sorry for that. Okay, so I hope that everyone already got to the Padlet, selected the basic package, and let me turn the other slide. Okay, so this is what you're supposed to see when once you log in. It's your dashboard. As you can see, it's very simplistic, not overcrowded with the features, functions, and things like that. So I'm going to tell you about the main features and how to create the project on this platform. Okay, so one of the things that you can access on Padlet is the gallery, and if you go to the gallery, you will see all the Padlets that were granted the public access. So when you create a project, you can select different privacy features. It can be only accessed by you. You can add some kind of protection where the students who want to access your Padlet would have to insert some kind of password, or it can be public. So if it's public, it goes to the gallery, and in the gallery, everyone can see your Padlet and everyone can copy your Padlet. So they can remake your Padlet, use some certain parts of your Padlet, or also even copy the Padlet with all the comments that you have, all the likes and content that was also uploaded maybe by your students or your colleagues, etc. Okay, so if you enter to one of these Padlets, you will see that on the top right corner, there is this tiny dashboard where you can interact with the project. So you can add a like, and it will go to your dashboard, and as one of the Padlets that you liked. You can remake, as I said, this particular project. You can share it, and there are some other functions as well. If you select to remake it, you will see that you can change the title of the Padlet. You can change the description, and you can select what you want to copy from the Padlet, whether you just want to copy the design, the layout with the theme, the wallpaper, and things like that, or if you also want to copy the post. So if there are also some kind of comments under the post, you can also copy them. Okay, so if we go back to the dashboard, we can see that there's the option to join a Padlet, and here is one of the options how your students can join your Padlet. So they would click on join a Padlet, and they would insert the link to your Padlet, and this is an easy way how to join it. Or another simple way is just for them to paste the link to your Padlet to their browser, and there you have it. They would be in your project. Okay, so how to make a Padlet, how to create this project. So you simply click on make a Padlet, and once again, with the free account, you have only 3 Padlets that you can create. And there's a variety of different templates that you can use. So I will show some of them very briefly, and I will also tell what kind of content you can add to these templates, and I will give you some examples from my practice and from my colleagues' practice as well. Okay, so first of all, let's try to create a wall. So click on make a new Padlet, and then click on the wall, click on select, and you should see a notification like this on my slide. So here you're asked to create some kind of title, write some kind of description. So since we're just trying out, you can write something like test or testing or just any word you want. Okay, then you can also add an icon for your project. So the icons are the same like you see on social media, but you can also add your own. You can draw something, you can paste a link to some photo or something online. You can upload your own file, even take a photo and something like this. Okay, when I started using Padlet, I would sometimes struggle with the address of the Padlet because the address to your Padlet project is www.padlet.com, then the dash and your username, another dash, and well, I would think that it was just a combination of letters and some numbers, but I was not aware that you can actually change the address to your Padlet. So here, when you're creating your project, your Padlet, you can change this ending on the link. So you can use any keyword that you like here. Yeah, I can see that we have some questions. Okay, there is a question. Okay, we're only allowed 3. Can we make and then delete and then make another to always keep with the limit of 3? Yes, you're only allowed to create 3 Padlets for free, but you can always archive them or delete them. I'm going to show how to do that. So this is also what I do. I create a new Padlet project, and when I don't need it, I either archive it or simply delete it if I think that I'm not going to need the content or the exercises anymore in the future. So this is how you can go about with just a limit of having 3 Padlets. Okay, I will close the question now. All right, so try to insert some kind of title. You can leave the description box empty for now. If you want, you can add an icon and try to change this address box as well. Okay, another thing that you can change when you're creating your project is the visualizations and the wallpaper. If you click on the wallpaper, you will see that it takes you to multiple choices for whether you want to have solid colors as your background, if you want to have gradients, textures, etc., or you can always add your own. So when you click on add your own, you also have the option to upload your own file from your computer, so some kind of picture, a photo, or something like this. Or you can also add a link to some photo that's online. And for example, if you're working, I don't know, maybe with physics or something like that, so you could have some kind of scheme at the background and then add different posts around it to explain how it works, or add some kind of bits and pieces of other parts of the scheme or parts of the I don't know, technology or something like this. So you could use this function for that, for example. Okay, then there are some options regarding posting. So by default, whoever posts on your project, you cannot see who they are unless you select this first option with attribution. If you want to see who's posting, then you move this this lever here, and then everyone who posts will have their name above their post, so you can see who posted or commented upon what. Then there's the option to select whether, how you want to order the new post, whether new posts appear first or whether they appear last. Then comments, because with distance learning, it's very, very important to well, create as many opportunities for our students to interact as possible. I would highly advise to allow them to comment upon the posts, because of course they will have some questions, or maybe they want to interact with one another. So also use this option here to allow them to comment. And also I would advise to allow them to react to the posts. So because, well, they're used to social media, it's something that they do on a daily basis, right? So you can also allow them to react with adding hearts or likes, dislikes, and even grading and things like that. Okay, then there's also an option for content filtering. You can choose to become the moderator, where every single new post that is being added to the Padlet has to go through you. So you can allow the post to appear on the project, or you can reject it. And or also there's a profanity filter. So as you can see, if there's any bad language used, it will be replaced with emojis. I haven't actually used this function before because, well, I trust that my students will not use bad language on the project and for educational purposes, right? But if you are creating the project for maybe your own purposes, and you want to make it public so that it appears in the gallery, you might want to select this feature as well. Okay, so once you're done with the title, description, allowing comments, you wanting to be the moderator or not, you click on next, and then you should see the notification where you can click on start posting. So click on these buttons. And then it should take you to your Padlet. So now you created a Padlet that has the template of the wall. And I should probably mention that whenever you create a Padlet, for every single time that you create one, if you don't add your own picture as the wallpaper, it will generate a different wallpaper every single time. So maybe once when you create a new project, you will see like a wall of bricks. The other time you will see something like the landscape of New York, or leaves, or the sea, water, just blue color, or something like this. So every single time it's different, and you can always change it if you don't like it. All right, so this is the window. And what can we also do with this? Before I go to how to create new posts, I will tell you about some of the editing options that you can have as well. So if you want to change the title, if you want to change the description, or change the wallpaper, and all the same things that you were adding when you were creating the new project, you can go to the top on the right hand side. There is this parameters option. So if you click on that, you will see all the exact same parameters that you were dealing with when you were creating the new project. So yeah, so you can change everything when you have already launched your project. Okay, so how do we share the project with our students or with our colleagues? There are several options as well for this. You can add members manually, but I would not advise doing this because, well, it requires a lot of time, right? So what I do usually is just send out the link to my students or to my colleagues, and it's way easier for them to connect to the project. But if you need to do this, you can also add them manually. All right, then here we can also change the privacy. As I mentioned, we can make the project private. We can protect it with a password. It can be secret, only accessible to us, and it can be public. By default, the project allows anyone who accesses the project to write, or in other words, to create new posts. But here we can add some limitations to that as well. Maybe if you are using the Padlet as a database for your lecture materials, if you don't want anyone to comment upon it or maybe add additional things, so you can change this setting here. So you can allow your visitors only to read the post. So they would not be able to interact with any post that you have there. If you allow them to write, they can create new posts. They will be able to see what's there. They will be able to comment if you allow them. But one limitation here is, I would say, that if you allow them to write only, if that's the only thing that you allow them to do, if they are working together, let's say if they are creating a mind map, for example, they will not be able to move other students' posts. So if you want to allow them to move not only their own posts, but other posts as well, you should allow them to edit the project. And I can see a raised hand. Okay. Mr. Newman, you want to ask a question, right?
Hello. No, please.
No?
Continue.
Okay, thank you. All right. So now more sharing options. So if you want to share the Padlet, as I mentioned, you can simply do that by sending out the link to your Padlet. You can also generate a QR code. It can also be embedded in your blog, your website. For example, if you're using Moodle or any other virtual learning management system, so you can also embed Padlet there. So for example, if it's on Moodle, your students would be able just to click on the embedded link, and they will be taken to your Padlet project. Then you see that it's also possible to share it via social networks, and if you are using Google Classroom, you can share that there as well. Okay, so one more thing that can help you maybe a little bit with the fact that you only have the opportunity, well, the option to create 3 Padlets for free. So what I do when I don't need to use the Padlet project anymore, well, you can never know, maybe you might need some kind of materials or exercises or comments or feedback from students in the future. So what I do, I always export before deleting or before archiving my projects. I always export them in some format, and Padlet allows you to export it as an image. So I will show you some templates. For example, there's a template for a map, or there's a template where you can create mind maps. So if you want to export the exact same structure, I would advise to use the option to save it as an image, because if you save it as a PDF, then the PDF does not look like your Padlet. I will show you a couple of examples in a bit. You can also export it as a CSV file and as an Excel spreadsheet. And for example, if you're interested in doing some research about how students communicate in the comments and things like that, you can later use this kind of format for coding your data and analyzing it, right? Okay. So I said I will show you some examples of how the PDF file looks like when you export it, right? When you export your project. So here I was using the template of a map. It was the first class with my students, and I teach a course on different educational technologies and modern education systems and things like that. And I did not know my students beforehand, and I was interested in seeing where they're from, what's their background, whether they have the background in education or not, and whether they're comfortable with using educational technology, what kind of technology they're using, and things like that. So I asked them to create tiny posts on the map by marking where they're from, and also while telling a little bit about their experience. So you can imagine a map, right? And different posts on it. But when I exported it as a PDF, this is what I got. So it arranges everything in blocks, and if there are some links, you will still be able to see the links, but they're not interactive, meaning that if you click on the link, it will not open it on your website. Well, at least that's my experience. Okay. Another thing is, for example, I have a template where I'm structuring everything as a shelf. The template is called a shelf. So you would see everything like a table, strictly structured. And as you can see, this is a small snippet from one of my classes, and I exported it as a PDF, and it doesn't look like that structure anymore. So when you export it as a PDF, everything is structured in a different way than in your project. So if you really want to save the same structure as you have on your project, save it as an image. Okay, if you want to access the editing options very quickly, just click again, go to the right-hand side top corner of your project, click on these three dots, and you will be able to access all the options, changing options, sharing, embedding, exporting very quickly there. Okay, so now let's create our first post on our Padlet project. So you can do it in two ways. Either click on this pink plus sign, which is located on the corner of your screen of your project. Great. Is calling me. I need to. Okay. All right. Or simply double click on the screen and you should see a view that I have on my slide. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that you can add to your Padlet project. So first of all, let's try to upload a file. Okay. I'm pretty sure that you have some files on your computer. So you can either simply drag and drop or pick the file from some specific location on your computer. What I really like about Padlet is, as I've mentioned, that it's very, I think, versatile and can be used by people who work with different disciplines. Compared to other platforms or tools like this, Padlet allows you, for example, to add equations, to add code and things like that. So in other platforms, you can also like store your files, allow your students to comment, interact, but there's a problem if you need to write equations and things like that. But Padlet allows you to do that. And you can also, as you can see, you can also select different colors to highlight the post, and you can also copy it, transfer. If you upload some kind of file, you can also set it as the cover and things like that. So try to add some kind of file to see what it looks like. Okay, Stephen, do you have a question? Okay, maybe there is no question. All right. Let's continue. Then you can add links. That's a very basic option. As I mentioned previously, if you are creating this free account, it limits you to only 3 Padlets. And there's also a limitation on how big your files can be. So if your file is really big, you can maybe store it in your Google Drive or some other platform and just add the link to Padlet so that students can access it. And when you add some kind of link, so please try to do that, add some kind of link there as well. It will generate a small thumbnail for you there.
No, labas. Aha.
Okay. There is a question. While you are on Padlet, can you have video thumbnails of your students or faces of them to prove that they are attending?
Jo, bet, nu, bet angliškai šneka, aš čia nieko nesuprantu.
Okay. Okay, I heard that there is a question in Lithuanian. So I will give a quick response in Lithuanian as well, okay? Sorry for non-Lithuanian speakers. Labą dieną, girdžiu fone, kad yra klausimų lietuvių kalba. Tai seminaras lietuvių kalba vyko vakar. Šiandien seminaras vyksta anglų kalba. Tai jeigu pasižiūrėtumėte, vakarykščio seminaro įrašas yra prieinamas YouTube kanale, tai galite jį rasti ten. Jeigu nedirbote anglų kalba, tai siūlyčiau pasižiūrėti seminarą lietuvių kalba. Okay. Going back to whether you can see if your students are working online when they're supposed to be doing that, there is an option, as you can see, there's an option for your students to take a photo from their camera. So you can ask them to upload a photo of themselves to prove that they're working on the assignments at that time. Okay. So then another option, I really love this one. You can do a Google search. So you don't have to go to Google separately, open a new tab and then search for something. You can do the Google search on your Padlet. So please try to do that. Click on Google and you will see that you can enter the search term and then select what kind of results you want to see. So you can add images, you can add videos, you can add GIFs, so those moving pictures. You can add audios or simple web queries. So if you click on the web query, as you see on the right bottom side corner, sorry, of my slide, you will get the search results as, for example, some articles and things like that. So I really like this this option here. Okay, there are some questions on the chat. Okay, there's a question again regarding monitoring whether your students are there working on the Padlet. Okay, it says that there's no facility like Zoom to have a constant show of students' faces live. Not that I know of. There is an option to share your screen, to record your screen, but there is not an option like here on Zoom to have an interactive chat where you can see what everyone is doing. Okay, so I've already mentioned this a little bit, so you can ask your students or whomever accesses your Padlet to take a photo with their camera. So this can be used, for example, as as a warm-up activity if you are only starting with your group, and if you want to get acquainted, you can ask them to take a photo of themselves and also write a little bit about their background, their interests, and things like that. Or if you want to really see that they're staying under quarantine at home, not going outside, you can also use this for that purpose. Another option is filming from your camera as well. And you can also record audios. So for example, when I'm working with my students, I sometimes ask them to record themselves asking some kind of questions to initiate a discussion. Or maybe, for example, recently, I asked them to watch a documentary and then give their reflection, not by writing it and sending me dozens of emails with large files and things like that, but to voice their reflection. We always have those students who don't speak in the class, and we don't hear their ideas, but sometimes they're really, really good ideas, and our students are really bright. So this is a way for allowing them to speak and to express themselves. So this is something that I do. And also if you're teaching language classes, this is a very useful feature, I think, where you can record yourself, maybe giving examples on how to pronounce something, or just well, giving instructions how to do something, and maybe them responding back to you and things like that. Okay, then there is an option to record your screen. And I haven't done that yet on Padlet. A couple of days ago when I was preparing for the seminar, and I gave this seminar both in Lithuanian and in English. So I decided to try out this feature because I haven't tried it before. And apparently you need a Chrome extension for this. And I wanted to install it, but then I decided not to. And the reason is because then the browser asked me whether I agree that with me installing the extension, it will be able to access my content in Padlet, which is okay. I wouldn't mind, but then it would also access my browsing history, and I don't see any point of them accessing my browsing history, and I wouldn't like it. So I decided not to install this extension. And if I need to record the screen, I think that I will simply use maybe another platform for doing that, and then upload the file or the link to the file to Padlet. Then you can also draw, and as you can see, you can select different background for your board. It can be white, it can be a black background, and then you can use different colors, and there's an option to erase what you're uploading there as well. Then you can also add places, so you can see that it generates, you can add the address there, and Padlet generates you a view from Google. And you can select what kind of view, how detailed you want to see it. So maybe if you're working with your students and on some topics like places, monuments, architecture, things like that, you can use this feature as well. And finally, there's an option to link your Padlet to another Padlet. I haven't done that yet, but maybe if you have a set of courses that are connected, or a set of classes, topics that are connected, you can use this feature as well. Okay, so now you are creating some posts on your wall. If you want to go back to your dashboard, simply click on this tiny word Padlet on the left-hand side at the top of your screen, and it will take you back to your Padlet dashboard. And on the dashboard, you will see that there's this new project created, right? And if you want to archive it, or if you want to delete it, so simply click on these three tiny dots on the right-hand side of the thumbnail of your project. And then the platform will either archive it for you, or um, or delete it. And if you archive it, it will go to the folder called archived, which you can see on the left-hand side. And you can always restore your archived projects. Okay, then if you go to the shelf template, and if you have any free Padlets left, you can try to do that with me to see what it looks like. So if you go to the shelf, it is much more structured than the wall. On the wall, you can post kind of hectically wherever you want. But on the shelf, everything is very, very rigidly structured. It looks like a table. So you have columns, so you need to write some kind of title, then you can add, again, descriptions, and then you add all the content below. And by default, I think you should see that the plus sign is below the posts. So whatever you post will go below the title of the column. But if you see the plus sign above the post, it means that you need to go back to the settings and select a different option for how you want to see the post, whether you want to see the new posts above or below. Okay. So it is very, as you can see, structured. This template is very structured, and okay, there are some questions. Okay, there is a question about the archived files. With archived files, are you allowed an unlimited number of those archived files? Yes, with archived files, it doesn't matter how many you have there. So you can keep creating new Padlets and adding them to archive, and then when you need them, you can restore them if you have the free space for new Padlets. And there's one more question. Can you share a Padlet link with us to collect data on the locations of all participants? Okay. I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but if you want to, let's say, ask your students to mark where they are, there is a template called map. And on the map, they can add a pin with the post and mark wherever they are. But if you're asking whether there is an option to kind of stalk them and see where they really are, so no, unless they post something on the map with the location where they are, it's not really possible to see whether they're really in their room or in some public space or something like that. Okay, so this is what how again, coming back to the template, to the shelf, this is what it looks like, and an idea how to get around you only having 3 templates for free is you can create in the shelf, you can create a column for every single different class that you have, and then post the exercises there, and then the students have to upload something or respond or comment in that particular shelf. I know that some teachers who have different, maybe, have students, let's say primary students, and they create one shelf and use one column for one class, then the second column for another class. And this is a way that they go about with this limitation of having only 3 Padlets for free. Okay, another option is Canvas. It works as a mind map tool. So if you go again to your dashboard and click on making a new Padlet and select this Canvas layout, here you can create mind maps. It's a really nice template. I asked my students to use it quite a lot, especially when they need to when we're working with the flipped classroom approach, where they need to read some materials and maybe create some kind of summaries and to connect the materials. So we use this quite a lot. And here you can see if you have at least 2 posts on this Canvas template, you can connect them. So if you click on the 3 dots on the post, you will see that all the, well, you have this table popping up, and the third option from the top. So the first one is adding colors for the background of the post, and you have edit post, and you have connect to a post. If you click on connect to a post, all the other posts on your Padlet, they become, well, they are highlighted in this kind of muddy orange yellow color, and you can add a label for the connection. Or if you don't want to add any label, you can simply click on connect, and this arrow will appear between those 2 posts. So, and in the same manner, if you want to disconnect the post, again, you click on those 3 dots, and then there's the option to disconnect the post. So as I'm speaking, you can try to create at least 2 posts and connect them to see how it works. And I'm going to tell you about one more template, which I'm not asking you to try for now. Maybe try this Canvas template instead. There's also the template for backchannel. Backchannel basically works like a chat. So well, as a chat where people can add their own files, as you can see at the bottom of my slide, you can add, again, all the same options like in any other templates. And well, you can use it as a chat to kind of monitor to see whether students are interacting at some specific time. And also, again, if you're interested in doing some kind of research about how students interact, how they collaborate, what kind of language they're using, so you can later on export it as a, for example, PDF or as an Excel file, and then do some research on that. Okay, I'm going to skip the template called stream. It looks like if you're using Facebook, which most of you probably are, or LinkedIn or any other social media site. If you imagine your, for example, Facebook feed, what it looks like. So if you use the stream template, it will store everything that you post there in the same manner. And okay, so I want to go to the map. So again, as I mentioned, for example, if you want to ask where your students are located or where they're from, like getting them acquainted to each other, knowing something, or maybe if you're teaching geography, or if you are giving a class on some monuments, some specific locations. So the map template is really nice for doing that. And again, you can upload sorry, you can upload all the same links, materials, videos, audios as in any other template. Okay, there are some questions, so let me have a look at that. Okay, there's a question about the shelf template, whether you can control the columns in the shelf to allow only for a specific class to see it. Unfortunately not. Whoever has access to your Padlet can see everything that is there. Okay, another question, where did the menu box appear from when you were using the Word map format? The menu box. Okay, all the menu boxes. If you mean the menu box where you want to edit something, edit some kind of features of your project, everything is on this right-hand side top line. If you click on the parameters sign, you can edit the parameters there. If you mean the menu box as your dashboard, so whenever you're in a project, on the left-hand side, you see the word Padlet in tiny letters. If you click on the word Padlet, it will take you back to your dashboard. Another question is on whether you can conduct polls on Padlet. Yes and no, maybe. If you want to conduct the traditional kind of poll where you could see in real time which option is getting more reactions or something like this, not entirely maybe. For this, you could, for example, use Mentimeter. It's a really, really nice tool. And there was recently a really great webinar on how to use Mentimeter for making your classes more interactive. So I would suggest to look it up. But you can go about this in a creative way. So as I mentioned, your students can react if you allow them in creating the design of your project. You can allow them to react to the posts. So maybe you can ask a question, and then your students add likes or dislikes. And this is a way to create a poll, for example. Or you can ask them to comment upon something. So this would be a way for them to react to whatever question you have. So this could be this type of polling. Okay, so going back to the template. So this is the map. Again, your students can select and pin themselves and create posts again with whatever exercise, whatever files you want them to add to the map. Okay, going back to the templates, I'm going to skip grid. Grid is quite similar to the shelf, but in grid you don't have those options to have the titles for the columns. So everything is structured as a box, but it doesn't have this rigid structure of having the title and everything goes below here. Everything is structured as a table, but without the titles to the columns. And the last one is the timeline. The timeline can also be used very creatively and very flexibly. It doesn't have to be a timeline per se. You don't only need to add a timeline like something for a history class, but well, for a history class, it could be very, very useful. But you can also use it as a tool for storytelling. Your students could add different pieces of the story there. Or you can, if you're teaching something like physics or chemistry, you could add pieces that have a certain element from some formula, equation, or some kind of reaction, and your students and you create an empty slot where your students have to add their own answer. What's missing there? You can also describe some kind of process there. If you're familiar with using infographics, if you know the different ways how to use them and what kind of things can be done with an infographic. So this is also a way how you can maybe transfer the same ideas from an infographic to Padlet. But Padlet, again, allows you more interactivity, right? If you're using a platform like Visme, for example, when I need to create infographics or visuals, I use Visme or Canva. These are two really nice platforms for creating infographics and other visuals for social media, for your slides and posters and whatnot. So but it does not allow any interactivity between students or between the creators. And here, if you're creating, if you're using the same logic behind creating an infographic, you can transfer it here and then have your students interact with you and among themselves as well. So this is a really nice template. Also Okay, sorry, there are some questions. I will answer them in a bit. So this is a nice way. Also, I'm working on a project called Badge, and some of the colleagues from the project are currently watching the seminar as well. So I'm going to also use this template for my personal purposes and for my colleagues' purposes as well. We're going to use this template for seeing what kind of steps of the project have to be implemented when, by whom, and sharing some files there as well. So you can use templates for your own purposes as well. I saw people using it for arranging their travel plans. Well, you can spend your quarantine time planning your trips once all this disaster is over, or creating recipes, blogs, and things like that. So it doesn't need to be only used for educational purposes. Padlet works very nice for whatever you need to visualize for yourself as well. Okay, so going back to the questions. Okay, there is a question about the Canvas template. How do you add the arrows? How do you connect the posts? So if you click on on the post, you will see that there are these 3 tiny dots. If you click on these tiny dots, you will see a table with different options should pop up, and the third option from the top is connect to a post. And if you click on connect to a post, all the other posts that you have on your Padlet should brighten up in this muddy yellow orangey color, and then you can select to which one you want to connect your post, and the arrow should appear. Okay, there's a question about those tools to create an infographic. Good question. One is Visme, V-I-S-M-E, Visme. And I think the link is like visme.com. It also has a limit of creating only, I think, 5 visuals only, but you can, again, be very creative and flexible about it. This platform is really nice because if you don't know how to use something, there are video tutorials, short video tutorials, explainers how to create something. A lot of templates are not free of charge, but then you can, again, go very creatively about it, add a blank template, and maybe get inspired by some of the templates that are not free of charge, and maybe try to recreate some of the parts. Again, be creative with it. And another platform is called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. And it has very similar options to Visme, but it's I would say easier to use, more maybe user-friendly to people who are not that experienced in using these kinds of tools. So when I'm asking my students to create infographics or create some kind of posters or create some kind of visualizations, I always tell them about these 2 platforms, and I give them the option to decide which one they want to use, because basically their functionality is the same, but Visme is a bit maybe more complicated for more advanced users maybe, and Canva is a little bit less complicated. Okay, there are no other questions for now, as I can see. Okay, so I will go back to talking about Padlet. All right, so I showed you the templates. I showed you the functions, where to find what. I hope you managed to keep up and try everything out step by step with me. Now I'm going to give you some other ideas on how Padlet can be used. From my own experience, from reading teachers' blogs, and from hearing how others are using it. So I already mentioned that it's a nice tool for allowing students to work together, to collaborate, to communicate, to ensure this interactivity, which is very, very important. If you're teaching online, it doesn't matter whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. It's very important to give as many opportunities for the students to collaborate and to talk. This is based not only by my personal experience, but also by a lot of research that I've read about. And this can be used as a tool for their presentations, right? Okay, you can use Zoom for them to give a presentation, but what if your students, okay, they're young parents, they have children, small children at home, they cannot connect to, sorry, they cannot connect to your class in real time. What if they need to work asynchronous, and that's the only option they have? And for many students, that will be the only option that they have. So this can be used as a platform for them to give their presentation. So again, remember, they can record themselves, they can upload their files, they can record audios and things like that. So it's a nice tool for their presentations. So in this way, you can collect their portfolio. They can be adding their bits and pieces of their work there. Then another thing is collective note-taking. I like this flipped classroom approach quite a lot, and I asked my students to collaborate on summarizing some of the materials that I give them, because I see that a lot of students, it doesn't matter whether they're master students or bachelor students, they still struggle with summarizing the key points in the text and seeing the key messages, the essential parts of the text, especially if those are scientific articles and things like that. So this collective note-taking is really nice and can be done by using Padlet. Again, you can use this Canvas template where they can create a mind map, or the shelves, or any other template works for this as well. All right, then bell ringer activities. If you want to check whether your students remember the essential information from the previous class, or if you want to maybe check what they know about a specific topic, you can use Padlet for that. You can, again, ask a question and then they answer it in the comments, or they upload an audio or a video answering your questions. So this is a nice way to warm up and see what maybe needs to be still added, or to see what you don't need to repeat anymore. Also, I would use Padlet as an exit ticket exercise, and this is a nice exercise that you can use with your students. Tell them to imagine a scenario where their colleague, their friend, skipped the class. They were not able to attend the class. How would the students explain the essence of the class, the key information, in just 3 or 5 sentences? So ask them to write that down, or maybe to record an audio of themselves trying to explain the class, the essence of the class. And then you will see what's still missing. Maybe they misunderstood something. Maybe, well, maybe everything was pretty clear and you don't have to get back to it anymore. So this is a nice exercise also to use not only for distance learning, but when we get back to our classrooms as well. What else? Okay, so a database for collecting your materials, useful resources. You can also, again, if you remember all the different kinds of visuals that you can add, so you can really create an interactive and very, very visual class or course. And with distance learning, what I've read in a lot of papers and research, the most important thing is to have everything in smaller chunks, divide everything, make it as dynamic as possible, create different types of exercises and tasks, and visualize as much as possible. This is a way to keep your students really engaged and follow the class. Okay. All right, there are no questions in the chat. So that's it on Padlet. If we have any questions on Slido, Gitas, can you check that please for me? Are there any questions?
Just a moment, checking the Slido.
Okay.
Just a moment. No, there are no questions on Slido.
Okay,
Although
I
we
see
have
one.
some,
Yeah, I see
something
one question on
like,
Zoom.
yeah, like 15 participants looking on YouTube.
Okay, there is a question how the students are signing up to listen to the lecture. So, okay, again, once you create your Padlet, once you have the tasks, the materials uploaded on your Padlet, you go to the button called Share, which is again on the right-hand side top of your project, and click on Share. And if you scroll down through the options, you will see that you can copy the link to your Padlet to the clipboard. You can share it on social media. You can generate a QR code. So this is a way to how you can get the access to your Padlet. And then if you share, for example, the link to your Padlet with your students or with your colleagues, they can access it without even registering for Padlet, without signing up. And if you click on the option that all the comments that they post are not anonymous, then you will be able to see their names there. Okay, so I hope I answered it. If are there any other questions by colleagues who are watching this on Zoom? If you have a question, please voice it or send it in the chat. If not, we still have a couple of minutes of the webinar left, so I would also like to tell you about a couple of alternatives to Padlet, okay? If you don't mind. Okay, so there are also some alternatives to Padlet. I found them quite recently. So one of them is Wakelet, and there's also Dotstorming, Lino, and Flipgrid. Maybe some of you are already using these platforms. So Wakelet looks well, if you can imagine again the Facebook feed or a kind of typical blog type of situation. So Wakelet looks a little bit like that. There are limited options on what you can post there, and I haven't yet found an option for the students to comment upon the post that you have there. So it might have a limited ways to ensure this interactivity between students. Well, I haven't used any of these tools. I haven't implemented any of these tools in my classes yet. So take this with a grain of salt. If you want to explore this, you might find something that I'm seeing that might not be existent after all. But Wakelet looks pretty nice if you just want to store your files and videos. You can add videos there. You can film yourself in Wakelet, but I think it's limited to 3 or 5 minutes only. And yeah, so if you want to use it as some kind of database, or if you want to create a blog, teacher's blog or something like this, you can use Wakelet for that. It's very nice. With Dotstorming, you are only allowed to add pictures and posts, so only text and pictures. And there is a difference. Oh, and also there's a chat window, but you can also see the chat window, unfortunately, when you are using your computer. If you're connected on your phone, you can only see the posts. You can only add pictures and text again, but you won't be able to see the chat window, unfortunately, unlike in Padlet where you can see everything. With Lino, it's a bit more complicated. It works on the basis of you creating tasks and uploading files in a format of post-it notes. And you can also add a due date for when something has to be done. But your students, once they're done, they can click on the post-it note and it disappears. So, and it disappears for everyone. So this is a little bit trickier, I would say. And with Flipgrid, it's mostly just for video recording. So you can record a video and ask for a response, and your students are able to also respond to you in the format of a video. Okay, there is another question I can see. Under what circumstances will an institution or individual choose Padlet over other learning management platforms, for example, Moodle, Socrative, and the rest? Okay, that's a very good question. I could probably answer it from my experience as a teacher and as a researcher. Students. Okay, somebody has their microphone on. Do you, Daiva, do you want to ask a question? Okay, probably not. So I will mute it so we don't have any background noise. Okay, coming back to the question. I don't know what's your experience, but from my experience, students don't like Moodle. I don't know. They just dislike it. Maybe it's too plain for them, or for some, maybe it's too complicated. Maybe they find it sometimes a little bit boring, even with traditional teaching and learning situations. Students not always go on Moodle. I keep getting emails asking about asking for information which is there on Moodle, very clearly posted for them, and they are not checking it. So I would say that Padlet might be a way to maybe engage them more, because it's well, I hope you agree on this with me. It's really simple to use. It can be used by primary school students. It can be used by PhD students, by professors, by anyone. It's really not complicated, and it's very visual. As you can see, there are so many options to add visual content, and this is one of the key things that a lot of research papers stress, that if you're teaching online, it has to be as visual as possible. So I would say to ensure this visual aspect, this interactivity, and it's very easy to access it. So I would maybe say that a teacher or an institution might choose to use Padlet over, for example, Moodle or some other learning management systems because of that. And again, it has a lot of the same features as, for example, Moodle, right? You can use it for synchronous or asynchronous teaching and learning, but I don't know. From my experience, I see that students prefer using Padlet. They find it much more exciting than, for example, using Moodle. And don't get me wrong, I like using Moodle, but I try to accommodate my students as much as possible. So if there's an option where they can interact and learn, I will try to use it. Okay, there is another question. Does Padlet
sorry, Vilma, can I also react to this? I think that we don't need to compare Padlet with Moodle, because they have slightly different scope and slightly different aim. With Padlet, you can organize some activities where you involve students to interact easily without any login and passwords, and so it's might be used even in very informal way. So you just publish your Padlet and invite everybody to contribute to it. Well, Moodle is mostly organized, mostly meant for organizing the learning process. So in Padlet, you will not be able to probably organize assessment of the students, to organize some other activities, to structure all the course in this way. So I see Padlet as one of the additions to Moodle, and to organize some activity around this tool, and to use this tool inside the Moodle. You can also embed this Padlet and to have it nicely integrated. So yeah. Well.
Yes, second that. I totally agree with you, Gitas. Padlet is a very nice addition to Moodle, and as I mentioned, you can embed it on Moodle. And well, one of the limitations of Padlet, for example, is that you cannot administer testing like you can do, for example, on Moodle. So yeah, it can be used as an additional tool. And okay, there is a question about an app. Well, actually, I'm not aware of an app, but you don't need to have an app for Padlet. You can simply go to your browser on the phone, and you will be able to access Padlet. Okay, there is a question about the alternatives. Okay, let me get back to the slide. So these are the alternatives that I mentioned. Are there any other questions about Padlet?
I've got one for you, Vilma. Can you hear me?
Yes, James.
Again, I might have missed something here. Your presentation of Padlet is within Zoom. Is it possible to have a live Padlet presentation going on embedded into Zoom, and therefore to have the students all available by video link while I'm delivering a Padlet presentation inside the Zoom?
Bet tai
Okay, I think you could simply then maybe share your screen and go about using Padlet, and your students will be able to see what you're doing there, and they will be able to contribute at the same time.
That's possible, to have them linked up to Zoom at the same time as being accessible to my Padlet, and to be able to participate in the Padlet activities as well.
Yes, I think so.
James, it's simple, I think it's simple just sharing your screen and demonstrating what's happening inside the Padlet from your own computer. While you can have students interacting straight on the Padlet on their own computers. So that's quite a simple and straightforward implementation. You don't need anything special to link Padlet to Zoom. You just switch on the screen sharing and demonstrate Padlet on your browser. Well, things will appear on it interactively while students.
Just stop video.
Yeah, so it would be similar to what you were doing right now, right? You had Zoom window reduced, and then you were on Padlet working, trying things out. So you could organize your students working in a similar manner.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Yes, if I may.
Yes, Frank.
Right. I don't think I really got the part about the linking Padlet. But then I'm wondering if a group of students are taking multiple courses, and you have the lecturers with their various individual Padlets, is there a way of linking all of these Padlets together so that the students can, in a go, have access to all the links of these lecturers who are teaching them, these multiple courses within a semester?
Okay, thank you for your question, Frank. Nice to hear from you. As I've mentioned, I haven't really tried this option yet, but I think it should be possible to Probably if you link one Padlet to another, there's some kind of link inside of the Padlet project, and that you simply click on, and then you open the other Padlet or something like this. I haven't really tried this out. Sorry, I cannot elaborate on this too much. I haven't had the need to do so, so I cannot really comment much on this. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So that's something we can explore. So yeah.
Yeah. So this is some homework for you to check
Yeah.
out.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay. Maybe we have time for one more question if there's one. Stephen, do you have a question?
Okay. Yes. So my question, my is a suggestion.
Okay, Stephen, I don't think that we can hear you properly. Could you maybe write your question down in the chat?
I'll try to
just
mute.
To suggest to what it is possible to do. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Stephen, sorry, we cannot hear you properly. If you can, please write your question in the chat, okay? Gitas, are there any questions in Slido?
No, it's only the thank you message from one of the participants.
Okay, that's cute.
And how do I manage bigger classes for these tools? Okay.
Well, you have to be creative about it. That's one thing for sure. It depends how large your classes are. So if you want to, for example, manage group work, again, you could select a specific template for that. Maybe, for example, using the shelves template, where you, in the title, where you have the column title, you could write the names down of the students who are supposed to work here, or maybe the students know the, for example, if you're checking the attendance, so they're probably used to some kind of list where they know which number they're assigned to, or maybe you can add some student ID codes or something like this to some specific columns where they're supposed to work. What else? Well, or give very clear instructions who is supposed to contribute where and how. So this is how I would go about it. Okay, Stephen, are you going to ask the question? Okay, there's a question by Stephen. What is the scalability and availability of Padlet? Okay, so as I mentioned, when you have this basic account, it only allows you to create 3 Padlets for free, and you can share it with anyone. And if you allow them in the privacy settings to also contribute to your project, so to write something, to comment, to react and things like that. So anyone who has access to your Padlet, to the link or to the QR code, they can edit the contents and react to the contents. Okay, so I think our time is up, right, Gitas? So
Yes.
I would like to thank everyone who joined us this morning to explore the features of Padlet. I hope you got at least a little bit inspired and some food for thought how you could maybe use this tool or similar tools like this in your classes and in distance learning. And I wish you all the best with trying to deal with what we're dealing now. And once again, I'm really thankful that you joined us this morning, especially all the colleagues who are not in the same time zone as we are, who had to get up very early in the morning to see this seminar. So thank you once again. And if you have any questions about Padlet, or if you need some advice for other tools that, or if you have some specific tasks in mind, if you don't have the tools for that, you can always contact me by my email, or a lot of you have me on friends on Facebook, so you can always contact me, and I will do my best to help you and give you advice for implementing educational technology, which is my great passion and inspiration. So thank you once again, and I guess we have to finish the presentation, the webinar. Gytis, thank you for your support as well.
Bye for all.
Bye.
Thank you, Vilma.
Thanks, David.
See you soon.
Bye, Vilma. Lots of love from Ghana.